Meeting to order. Welcome to the Senate Appropriations and Ways and Means Room. And Mr. Chairman, we have an offer for you. Start out on page 1. Item 1, Senate. Item 2, Senate. Item 3, House. Item 4, House. Number 1 on 25 for Department of Wildlife and Parks, House. Department of Health and Environment, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3, Senate. Number 2 and 25, Senate. Number 3, House. And Kansas State Fair, number 1, Senate. Page 2, item 2 at the top, House. Fiscal year 2025, Senate. Kansas Water Office, 2024, number 1, Senate. Board of Regents, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Fiscal year 25, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3, Senate. Number 4, Senate. Number 5, Senate. Number 6, House. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, Senate. Dylan, we have a correction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your time. So item 11 on page 2, where it says in the House position, move the funding, those are the items that were removed from the Board of Regents and moved to the various institutions. This should be delete. So this was actually removed from the budget. And this is also true on page 3, item 18. That should be delete when you get to those items.
You ready? Page 3 at the top, number 12, Senate, 13, Senate, 14, Senate, 15, Senate, 16, Senate, 17, Senate, 18, Senate, 19, Senate, 20, Senate, 21, 22, and 23, Senate, 24, Senate, 25, 26, 27, and 26 is Senate. 2026, number 1 is Senate, number 2 is Senate. Department of Education, we're going to give you a House on number 1. Okay, number 2 is House, and number 1 on 25 is House. They had a conference committee today on that, correct? Yeah. Page 4 at the top, number 2, Senate. Okay. Excuse me. 2, 3, and 4 are all House. That's the same bill. And 26, 1 and 2 are also House. Emporia State, number 1, Senate. 2025, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3 is House. Number 4 is Senate. Fort Hays State, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Kansas State University, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3, Senate. Number 4, Senate. Okay, page 5, KSU number 1 in 2025 Senate. KSU Veterinary, 2025 number 1 Senate. Pittsburgh State, 2025 number 1 Senate. Number 2 Senate. Number 3 Senate. School of the Blind number 1 Senate. School of the Blind number 2 House. School of the Deaf Senate. State Library Senate 1, number 2 in State Library Senate. University of Kansas 2025, number 1 Senate, number 2 Senate. Page 6 at the top, number 3 Senate. Next is University of Kansas Medical Center, number 1 Senate, number 2 Senate, number 3 Senate. Wichita State University, 2025, number 1 Senate, number 2 Senate. Attorney General, number 1 Senate, 2 Senate, 3 Senate. Fiscal year 25, 1 Senate, 2 Senate, 3 Senate, 4, 5, and 6 are also Senate. Top of page 7, number 7, Senate. Board of Barbering, fiscal year 24, number 1, House. 2025, number 1, House. Board of Cosmetology, fiscal year 25, number 1, House. Number 2, House. Board of Healing Arts, fiscal year 2025, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Board of Tax Appeals, number 1, House. Fiscal year 25, number 1, House. Department Administration, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Senate. Page 8 at the top, number 5, House. Number 6, Senate. 7, House. 8, Senate. Fiscal year 25, 1, 2, and 3 are House. 4 is Senate. 5 is House. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So be number 6 is Senate, and going down Department of Commerce, 1 and 2 are Senate. 3, 4, Senate. Page 9, 5 Senate, 6 Senate, 7 Senate, 8 Senate, 9 Senate, 10 Senate, 11 Senate. Fiscal year 26, number 1 and 2 are Senate. Department of Revenue, number 1, House. 2025, number 1, Senate. Number 2, House. Judicial Branch, number 1, Senate. Number 2, House. Fiscal year 25, number 1, Senate. Page 10 at the top, number 2, 3, and 4, Senate. Kansas Corporation Commission, fiscal year 25, number 1 and 2 are House. Kansas Dental Board, number 1, Senate. Fiscal year 25, number 1, Senate. Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, number 1, House. Number 1 in 2025, House. Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission, number 1, House. 2025, number 1, Senate. Page 11 at the top, Legislative Coordinating Council. Number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Fiscal year 25. Number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3, Senate. Number 4, House. Legislature, number 1 and 2, Senate. Fiscal year 2025, number 1 and 2, House. Number 3 and 4, Senate. Fiscal year 26, number 1, House. Pooled Money Investment Board, number 1, Senate. Page 12 at the top, Secretary of State, fiscal year 2025, number 1, Senate. State Banking Commissioner, fiscal year 24, number 1, Senate. Fiscal year 2025, number 1, Senate. State Treasurer, Senate. Fiscal year 2025, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Fiscal year 2026, 1 and 2 are Senate. Fiscal year 27, 1 and 2 are Senate. Page 13 at the top, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Actually, that whole page is Senate, all the way down. Kansas Department of Transportation, 1, 2, and 3, Senate. Children and Families, 2025, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Senate. Department of Health and Environment, 1, 2, and 3, Senate. Page 14. Looks like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are all Senate. Fiscal year 2026, 1 and 2, Senate. Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Service in fiscal year 24, number 1 and 2, Senate. Page 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 are all Senate. Page 16, they're all Senate. Page 17, the Adjutant General, number 1, Senate. Number 2, House. Fiscal year 2025, number 1, Senate. Number 2, Senate. Number 3, House. Number 4, Senate. Department of Corrections, 1, 2, and 3, Senate. Fiscal year 2025, 1 and 2, Senate. 3 and 4, House. Emergency Medical Service Board, fiscal year 2025, House. Highway Patrol, 2024, number 1, Senate. Number 1, 2025, Senate. Number 2, House. Kansas Bureau of Investigation, number 1 and 2, Senate. State Fire Marshal, 2025, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Senate. Number 5, House. Other statewide adjustments, 2025, 1 Senate, 2026, 1 Senate. And the last page are all Senate. No. Do you have any questions?
Yes, we we do have some questions. We were just joking over here how generous the Senate was in their offer. Vice Chairman Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 4, down on Kansas State University, I'm assuming that number 3 and number 4 go together.
Yes.
Okay.
Did that go with that? Yeah, we were gonna. Yeah, I know, but.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're going to go ahead and take your offer. And, oh, wait, Vice Chairman Clays,
We've got a proviso.
already?
Well, you know, if we do just a few every round, it won't be near as painful as just doing them all at the end. Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. This is an item that we funded in 2023 for the 2024 fiscal year. This is just a rerouting of where the funds will be located and then bonding authority rather than a lease purchase. You'll recall last year in Commerce, we placed dollars for attracting a particular business to the Kansas State University Salina campus. That was then routed through the Salina Airport Authority. They have found that the bond rate is much lower going through Kansas State University, so they would like, instead of the dollars going to Commerce and then to the Airport Authority to build, that it go directly to Kansas State University, so it doesn't change the planning in any way. So what the proviso will do is it will appropriate $3.1 million annually, offer bonding authority, and then because in 2024, the Airport Authority already went through the RFP process to the satisfaction of the Department of Commerce, it will exempt them from going through that a second time. The limitations are 45 million, et cetera, that are inside that language there. But it is something that we've already voted to approve. So this would just be a shifting of where those funds are directed.
Okay. Any more?
Not to this round. I bet he could find one if you really wanted another one.
That's all right. We'll just keep it light right now. I think we could be back in probably a half an hour with our offer. So I would say to be back here at 4:55 p.m.
That'll work.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
We'll see you at 4:55. Back to order.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I think we have an offer that we'll be giving to you. It'll probably be the last one tonight. And then we'll probably, hopefully resume sometime in the morning. So we'll just go ahead and go off of the comparison sheets real quick. Item number 1, under the Department of Agriculture, be House, and 2 and 3 are House. Items 1 and 1 for 24-25 for the Department of Wildlife and Parks, you gave the House position. Department of Health and Environment, items 1 and 2, Senate. For 2025, items number 1 and 2, House. 3 is already agreed upon, and for the Kansas State Fair Board, for 2024, item number 1, Senate. Item number 2 for the State Fair, House. 2025, item number 1, Senate. Number 2, House. Kansas Water Office, number 1 for 2024, Senate. Board of Regents, for 2024, 1 and 2, House. 1 through 5 is House. 7 and 8 is House. 9 and 10 is Senate. And number 11 is House.
Number 6. What was number 6? You accepted?
Number 6 was accepted by you in the last round.
Okay, thanks.
House position. Okay, so then also I'd kind of like to explain on items number 12 through 17, even though they show delete, they're actually still in the budget. It's just we did it a little bit differently in the House where we actually extracted everything from the Board of Regents and actually discussed it in the relative university. So that's why items 12 through 17, then 19 and 20, all of those are reflective still in the budget, just elsewhere. So that is going to be House until item number 26. Item number 1 for fiscal year 2026 is Senate. Item number 2 is House, and the other 3 remaining on that with Department of Education was agreed upon last time. So I'll skip down to Emporia State University, item number 1, House. For 2025, 1 and 2 House, 4 House, 4 State University. Actually, the rest of the page is this House. I'll just say that. And then the first 4 items on page 5 is House. School for the Blind, fiscal year 2025, item number 1, Senate. State Library, items number 1 and 2, Senate. University of Kansas, item number 1, House. Item number 2, Senate.
Which one's Senate? Which one was Senate? I guess everything was House but one of them? On page 5.
For the School of Blind, item number 1 was Senate. State Library, both items, items 1 and 2 were Senate. And then University of Kansas, item number 2 was Senate.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now page 6. House, item number 3. KU Med, all House. Actually, the rest of that whole page is House. On page 7, item number 7, House. And the items remaining on that page are House. So on page 8, item number 6, House. Item number 8, Senate. For fiscal year 2025, item number 4, House. Item number 6, Senate. And then the rest of the positions are House on page 8.
We're gonna, hang on just one second, yes. Okay, so on that page 8, item number 8 at the top is Senate, then you go down to item number 6 in fiscal year 2025 is Senate.
Senate.
Everything
Item-
else on that page is
House.
correct?
Yes. And page 9, 5 and 6 and 7 are House. 8 is Senate. 9 is Senate. 10 and 11 House. 2026, item number 1, House. Item number 2, Senate. Department of Revenue, 2025, item number 1, House. Judicial Branch, item number 1 for 24, House. And the reason we had clarification in regards to this, because the reason why yours is just a little bit more than the amount that we are appropriating is because there is one FTE that was created, and that's the difference between the 2.4 and the 2.6 million. 2025, House.
Excuse me one second. On this one here, there's one FTE difference. Did you get that? One FTE difference. Please proceed.
On page 10, items 2 through 4, House. For the Kansas Dental Board, both of those items, House. And then for the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission on fiscal year 2025, item number 1, Senate. And all of those items remaining on page 11 are pretty simple. It's all House.
Did you get all that?
All right, so on page 12, Secretary of State, House. State Banking Commissioner, that's House position because actually last year we passed a bill that was going to try to equalize everything between different boards and commissions. And this is what we're trying to avoid by having that bill, is having different boards and different commissions being paid different wages or different ways. And that bill was supposed to equalize everything. So we don't have a commission or a board coming back year after year saying, hey, we want to get paid more. So that was the whole intent of that bill, to make sure that all of our commissions and boards are being at the same playing field. So that's a House position, if you didn't guess that already. 2025 House. State Treasurer, House. In 2025, items 1 and 2, House. 26 is House. Item number 2 is Senate. 2027, House. And item number 2, Senate. Page 13, item number 1, House. Item number 2, Senate. All 3 items for the Department of Transportation is House. And in fact, all the rest of page 13 is House. But I would like to mention on item number 3 for the Department of Health and Environment for the adding of $4.8 million, including $1.9 million in state general fund to extend Medicaid coverage for dental exams, x-rays, and cleanings. The MCOs are going to be reevaluating their contracts, and this might be a service that is going to be, or possibly could be included, and that was the reason why the House did not include that, because if they include those services, then we don't necessarily need to appropriate the money. Will they do that? We don't know, but we're supposed to know at some point. So if anything right now, we would probably want to have this discussion at omnibus. But still House position right now. On page 14, everything is House with the exception of item number 14, that is Senate. And then item number, oh wait, I need to back up. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Item number 9 was Senate as well. So 9 and 14 are Senate for fiscal year 2026. Item number 2 is Senate. And the rest of that page is House. On page 15, item number 5 is Senate. Item number 9, Senate. Item number 15, Senate. And all the rest are House. Page 16 is all House, but I would like to make a statement in regards to the contract nursing on Larned State Hospital and Osawatomie State Hospital. Actually, this week, we're having a subcommittee with the Appropriations Committee meeting to discuss this very issue and see what we need to do in order to, I guess, clarify what needs to be done in regards to contract nursing. So actually, our motion in committee was to pull the money out and then discuss it at omnibus, because they'll be meeting throughout the entire week. Remaining items on page 17 are all House. As are all the items on page 18. But then on page 19, under state employee pay, item number 1, Senate. And then item number 1, under fiscal year 2025, Senate. And then in regards to the proviso that was distributed to us in the last round, we're looking over that language because it's not exactly the same as it was passed last year. It's actually differing language. So we're still reviewing that proviso. And then one thing that I probably would just say right now, because we have been discussing or having each chamber have their own positions in regards to somewhat of what might be happening with a state employee pay plan for fiscal year 2025. And the intent was that we were going to have a discussion on that at omnibus. We just never took it out of the budget bill. So we are looking at, and I think I've been having the revisers looking at a different pay plan for the state employees as what's reflective in the budget bills. Just to let you know. And then Vice Chairman Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before you start, we just want to make sure, there's a question here on the page 19, on the top item, number 1.
Yes.
You have Senate?
No, we have House. You have the language, we don't.
Okay, well, just,
That was a floor amendment.
right. Senator Petty just had a question on it, so.
Yeah, it was an amendment made when you debated your budget bill on the Senate floor.
Okay. Representative Hoffman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a proviso that I'd like to include. It's basically House Bill 2705, which authorizes KSU to sell some It's to sell their honors housing, and the bill is set, we passed it out, it's setting in Ways and Means. So probably the best way to just to do it a proviso to allow them to sell that this year.
Can you explain a little bit about, I see this is in Manhattan.
Right, it's their, it's one of their houses that they've used for honor housing. They're wanting to sell it. They're moving that honor house, I think, into a different housing there on campus as they do some renovations, but they're wanting to sell this particular piece of real estate. And like I said, we passed it out. It's 2705, House Bill 2705. We passed it out of the House, and it's setting in Ways and Means. So you guys weren't able to get to it.
I have a question from Senator Petty. Want to know about the vote in the House on this. Was it unanimous?
I didn't remember. I'm phoning in a friend. They'll have it in just a second for me. Yeah, 2705. I think it
Were
passed
there
out
any
pretty easily.
opponents to the bill?
120 to 1.
120 to 1. That's
Yeah.
figured unanimous. You know who that one was?
I don't know. Probably a KU fan or something. I don't know. It wasn't the chairman. Yeah.
No, I think it's sitting behind the chairman back there.
It was Representative Riley.
Any other questions on the proviso? Seeing none. I guess I'm going to encourage everyone here to go to the shrimp peel and help out our less fortunate folks. So we will give you a holler in the morning and figure out a time where we can have another round.
That sounds good, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, thank you. We are adjourned.